All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of the Chris Reid Show. I'm here with a very special guest. We have a unique story of how we met that I'm excited to get into, but I'm here with a contemporary romance author. Is that a safe way to kind of categorize you? Roseanne Burke. Welcome, Roseanne. I'm
Thank
excited to have
you.
you here. If you just want to say a little bit about your background, just a little bit, and then we'll kind of get more into it. So I'm excited to have you here, though.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So, yes, one of my titles is author. It's not my main title, though. It's my hobby that I started maybe about 10 years ago, but kind of did it for a while, got out of it, and then recently got back into it in the last couple years. And, it's just a natural thing. I love it. And I've always been like a writer ever since I was little,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. So, it's been a passion of mine
yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Authors specifically just fascinate the heck out of me because I want to write a book at some point, and I will write a book,
Mhm.
absolutely for sure. But to me, like I just love like something physical, right?
Mhm.
Like in today's world, it's probably why I gravitate towards supplements, but it's just so cool to me. And we'll get into like the specifics of like what is the whole process even like. But so we met at a vendor show a few
Mhm.
months ago now, and you were right next to me,
Mhm.
set up while I was demoing for Ultra Health products. And you're just sitting there and I see your books on the table, and like, honestly, like the category isn't even like so much important to me. It's just the fact that you're an author and have a physical, tangible book. And I'm like looking at them and I'm like, this is so cool. And it's like, you're probably thinking, Chris, you're having a romance author on your book. Like, I think this is the most amazing thing. Seriously, it doesn't matter the category. But like I said, I have so many questions for you. Kind of go specifically, like, when did you first realize that you're like, okay, I maybe want to be an author. I want to write a book.
Sure.
What is that process like? How long does it take? Because I've heard of like famous authors who have, I mean, it takes literally years. Would you say that's accurate? Like, what exactly is the process like? How do you find a publisher? How do you edit it?
Mhm. Well, yeah. So I think, you know, seriously was in 2015. And so actually from 2015 to 2016, I wrote four of these books.
Okay.
And I didn't, again, it wasn't anything super serious, but I just was reading a lot. And then I was like, I think I could do this. I think I could do better than this one,
Yeah, yeah.
thing. And like, then I would just get like these like sparks of inspiration. And then I would just, and literally the first one I like got out start to finish in like 2 months. I wasn't in editing and all that good stuff. But yeah, like I get them done very quickly, get them out, and then I go back and revise. I usually have to take breaks so that I can look at it with fresh eyes again and that kind of thing.
Right,
So,
right. So when you said something interesting, sparks of creativity. Because even though I'm not an author yet,
mhm,
like I know what you mean when you say that. Like you kind of get in the zone, like they call it flow state.
yes,
Like
for sure.
is that real in your mind? Like when you're in that state, are you just like in go mode and you're just like, all right, I got to get this out, and the
Yeah,
ideas are just like popping?
yeah,
Because like anyone watching this can apply that in their own
right,
life, the so-called flow state. Can you go just like a little deeper of like,
right.
what does that look like?
Right. So, I mean, I think probably the most obvious example in my mind is with the latest book, The Point of the Triangle. It's one I had an idea for it, I think starting in like 2019, but nothing really solidified. I don't know. And then I can remember sitting on my couch and it like just clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh. And ran upstairs, got like a notepad, and I just started like writing out an outline of all these things. And like that outline was done in 2 hours. I mean, it all clicked. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's hard to describe, but yeah, it just like literally was this spark of inspiration that everything came out.
Do you think is there something like you specifically do that like kind of ignites that, or does it just like randomly come about?
That's a good question. I think they're kind of random because actually I have another book that I've written. I have not done anything with it yet, but it's called Good Neighbors.
Little
So
sneak
coming
peek of it.
soon. And that one came as I was like driving home from work listening to radio. And I came home and wrote out an
Like
outline,
the whole story?
or at least like a main concept of it. And then, yeah, you can kind of fill in little parts and things like that. But yeah, like the main concept of it.
That's incredible. So for like me, like I tend to be in, especially nowadays, just kind of like grind mode 20. And when I'm in that state, like my creative juices are not flowing. So
Mhm.
like for me, the best ideas really come to me like when I'm making sure I'm taking time for myself and I don't have a million distractions. And in today's world, like with social media and, we're glued to our phones all the time and, we
Yeah.
got family life. There's so many things that kind of like pull us away. But like for me, when I'm in that zone is when I'm taking time for me. And it's like you make more progress in those moments than you
Yeah.
do when you're just like, I gotta grind all
Right.
the time.
Right.
And so yeah, that's really been crucial for me because you have to take those moments. Do you ever get what do they call it,
Absolutely.
writer's block, where like nothing's coming to you?
So I sometimes will have, I mean, yeah, it's not like I'm really trying to write. It's not like my main, source of income or things like that. But like I'll have periods of time where I'm like, I don't have that motivation. And
Right,
so like
right.
I'll leave it alone for a bit because if I try to force it, then yeah, it doesn't feel right. And then, it'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So how many total books do you have now?
Six that have published and then seven on the way.
7 on the way.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're on Amazon, right?
Mhm.
How else are you kind of like getting the word out there?
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok? Because I have a crazy TikTok story. I might have told you this when we met, but it just really like perfectly iterate like the business world that we're in. I'll just tell you right now.
Yeah.
So there was a video that went viral of this guy. He was actually signing books at a Barnes and Noble, and no one was really coming up to him. And there was this little girl that like seen him and kind of felt bad
Mhm.
for him that like, oh, no one's coming up and talking to him. No one's buying his books. So her mom like made a TikTok of her going up to his table at the Barnes and Noble and the video went viral and it like he literally became a bestseller, an Amazon bestseller just because of
Right.
that one piece of content. So my point is like with content and just the overall business world that we live in, like literally anything is possible. Anything. And it just kind of like blows my mind. And I think it's like just really an exciting time to be in business. So yeah, how are you kind of like putting yourself out there as far as
Yeah.
promoting yourself?
So I'm just now starting to think about doing that.
Hey, that's okay.
This has been much more of just like a, side hobby. And then, with the last book, I worked with a publisher. And then, funny story is that because of that work I did with them, that my very first book, the Finally for Me, they've, I guess found it online and then Barnes& and Noble purchased, about 3,500 copies and sold it in multiple stores in New York.
Hold on.
So
I'm stopping you right there. Did you guys just hear what she just said? You said this exactly that way
Uh-huh,
when we met. She just said that Barnes and Noble purchased 3,500 copies and now they're in the East Coast in Barnes and Noble. To me, that is so cool. And like, that is such a big accomplishment. Like, how many authors are out there that are not in bar
right,
like that's like
right.
my version of being in high V, right? Like that's
Yeah,
just so cool to me. So but yeah, like one thing I love about books is they're gonna be around forever,
yeah,
right? Like I'm reading books about great people throughout history, whether they're autobiographies or just like normal biographies.
mhm,
And regardless of when they were written, they can impact people forever. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so drawn to books. And then also what you said, you never know who's going to see it.
right.
And
Yeah,
I made a cool little TikTok about myself or about this concept earlier, but it only takes one time.
yeah,
It takes one time for someone to see it and be like, "Holy cow, this is
right,
great." And then, you're kind of off to the races, right? Now,
correct,
obviously that takes a lot of time to kind of
right.
build up to that point and put yourself in the position to kind of achieve that. But anything's possible nowadays. So you said you're working on another one, right? Are you still working full time? Is this what you're doing full time? Do you want to be an author full
Yeah.
time? Like what?
That would be the dream,
Right, right.
to be able to just create all day and, live off that and everything. But my full-time job is I'm a nurse practitioner in an OBGYN's doctor's office here in Peoria. So I have my doctorate in nursing. I've been a nurse practitioner. Well, I've been a nurse since 2008. And then after 5 years, I graduated and been a nurse practitioner ever since. So that's my main job, but and I love what I do and I love my patients, but it's a lot of that grind, 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 like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah. And
It's hard.
I was just having a conversation with someone or a good friend of mine, and there's when you're a creative, there's such a difference between being in that hardcore corporate world,
Yeah,
just that dog eat dog mindset, compared to, in your case, writing books or kind of pursuing your passions, and it's just such a fine line, right? And it's like
yeah.
I almost feel it's almost like two versions of me, right? Like when I'm in my creative zone compared to when I'm in that competitive, dog eat dog kind of mentality. Like I said, you have to find time to be in that space because that
Mhm.
other world will just eat you alive. Do you find it hard to like balance kind of like your normal job with this?
So, yes and no. So, actually, and I don't think I told you this when I first met you, but so I found out last year that I have cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic condition that affects how your body produces mucus. And so your mucus is thicker. And so you can get sick a lot easier,
Yeah, yeah,
pneumonia,
yeah.
all that. And so I found that out last year, which was interesting finding that out at that age because usually you find out when babies are born. But I got really, really sick last year. And so that forced me to slow down,
Right.
which I'm so grateful for and everything. And obviously now that I know, I have the treatments and everything. So, I'm doing much better now. But yeah, I now especially I'm like, I can't keep doing the grind. I have to
It
slow.
and yeah, and at some point, it's like, you kinda just gotta, like, bet on yourself and go for it, right? No matter how good things are going in one area, at some point, you're gonna have to take that leap of faith, and that's kinda the
Yeah.
boat I'm in, right?
Yeah.
And at some point, it's gonna have to happen, but I'm the type of person, like, if I'm in a position where I know I have to do something, like, my back is against the wall, that's, like, kind of when I do my best work, and you're gonna laugh at this example, but, when I was in school and I would have a research paper, I would literally wait until, like, the last minute to where I knew I had to sit down and get it in, otherwise, like, I couldn't just focus on it, but that is when I would do my best work, is when I knew I had to get it done. So, I love, I just love talking to, like, creative people in, like, literally, like, any industry, right? Because we all have different, things that we can relate to, and we
Mhm.
can learn from each other. So, I'm really excited. Like, even just, like, looking at these, like, it's just I love physical things, like, it's just so cool. So, so you're working on a new book,
Mhm.
right? Are you on TikTok?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm
Do
not.
do you collab with, like, do you talk to, like, any other authors? Like, do you get ideas from anyone else? Okay, okay.
Very
Um,
isolated.
you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
I was reading talking about, like, when you never know when you're gonna have your big break, like, Stephen King's first
Mm.
manuscript was, like,
Mhm.
rejected, I
Mhm.
think it was, like, a dozen times. Do you ever like, when you're in that mindset where you're like, "Okay, this isn't coming along exactly how, like, I envision it, or I don't necessarily, like, feel good about it," how
Mhm.
do you, like, overcome that?
Mm.
Maybe you're, like, finishing up a certain chapter or a certain book, and you're like, do you ever feel like this isn't my best work? Like, I can do better.
Mhm.
How do you, like, balance that in your mind?
That's a good question. I mean,
Can I give you an example? So,
yes.
like, for Ultra Health products, we have been going through, I know this is gonna sound so simple, but it's, like, actually pretty complex. We've been getting new labels for
Mhm.
the products,
Mhm.
and I'm not, like, a super technical person as far as, like, I'm not a graphic designer, right? So, like, I can't necessarily think of, like, what's gonna look the best, and we have gone through so many different drafts of the labels, and, like, it's a really big deal to me, and when I look at something, and because on one hand, I just kind of want to put them out there so we can get on to the next phase of the business.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. But I like when something is not good, like I know deep down that I can't be confident in it to put it out there. Right.
Right.
And like I always say, good is the enemy of great. And so I might look at something and be like, oh, it's good enough. But like I can't attach my name to it, right? I can't attach my company name to something that's just okay in my mind. So have you ever experienced that where you didn't feel like 100% great about how you either ended a book or just even like finished a chapter?
So I don't think so. I think when I first started writing 10 years ago, it was again just not a serious thing and I would just kind of literally just self-publish them online and if people read them, that's great and if not, I didn't really like put anything behind it. And then, 10 years or I guess 8 years fast forward, I went back and read them again and then I was like, okay, and I was able to kind of like tweak things with
Like
8 years of
like
experience.
your first like rough
Mhm.
drafts?
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And yeah, now I spend a lot more time editing and, taking the break to come back with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So do you read your earlier works and you're like, this is trash. I can't believe I put this out there.
So no, actually. It's difficult because it's definitely I was a different person
Yeah.
10 years ago. So in that way it's a little bit cringe of like
Yeah.
But I actually think my stories are good.
Yeah, well, that's
The
good.
stories
Yeah,
are
that was good.
good.
Were you nervous at first to, like, put them out there and, like, kind of
Mhm.
put yourself out there, like, "Holy cow, what are people gonna say?"
Yes, especially because they're spicy. They have some spice in them.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Okay. What,
So,
we can go a little deeper on that. What, is there, like, a certain topic for your books that, like, is, like, universally accepted amongst your readers? Like, do you have one thing that you know your readers are gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is what makes a book."
it's a good question. Well, I think actually, because they're all, romance, tension.
Tension.
I do a good job, I think, of creating tension between the characters, and then once they finally get together, then
Okay, and
fireworks go off.
so interesting. Go deeper on tension. Like, what
Okay.
specifically what specifically do you mean
Yeah.
by tension?
So, for example, like the first book, finally for me, the two main characters meet, but they're in circumstances where um, don't they shouldn't be in a relationship. The Lacey is the female character, and she just broke up with a long-term boyfriend. Ben is supposed to be engaged to his longtime girlfriend, but he's not happy, and so then they meet. They're friends, and then
Friends.
uh huh,
Okay.
and so then for a while until they become more.
So what percent what percent of your story would you say is about that tension as towards, like, the end where they live happily ever after? Like, is most of the book about, like, building up that tension?
So probably half of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
half of it. And then, as far as like other tension, conflict and things like that, there's some conflict with, family because they're not happy that he broke up with his fiance. So there's other forms of tension, but like the characters having tension between them before they get together is probably one thing that I do a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so interesting. I feel like as humans, sometimes we kind of gravitate towards that tension. Would you, because if things are just going smoothly all the time, right? Like,
Exactly.
where's the fun in that? Do you kind of like intertwine that concept into your books?
Yes, there's definitely that. There's, yeah, reasons why people shouldn't be together or, I don't know, and then they end up together and then it's good. It's magic.
Love is so interesting,
It's
right?
very,
It's an
very
interesting
complicated.
concept.
Mhm.
And I think, like, so often we put just, like, black and white terms on
Mhm.
relationships and love, and we're like, "Okay, it has to be this way."
Mm.
But, you talk to different people, and it's just kinda interesting, right? Like, how they met and, like, what works for different people, and you try not to you don't wanna judge anyone, and, yeah, I just love is interesting. Do you ever
Yeah.
foresee yourself, kinda diving into, like, other genres, or are you like, "I'm kinda good where I'm at?"
So actually the last book, The Point of the Triangle, is romance, but with mystery.
I remember you saying that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So that was the first one that I kind of really dug into truly a mystery, like a detective procedural. And so I really liked that. And then the one that's on its way is it's different.
Right.
It's romance, like there's definitely that component, but then there's also, yeah, kind of a thriller aspect to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, did you make, like, a conscious decision to, like, go in a slightly different direction, or, like, how did that, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I wanna intertwine, like, mystery into my books." Like, how did that come about?
Right. I don't think it really oh, yeah, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was, I had just had the idea for this book, and I knew that there would be a little bit of that component to it based on, kind of the main premise. But yeah, it just kind of naturally transitioned. And then I had, some friends read it, and one said in particular, The Point of the Triangle reminded her of books by Freda McFadden. I don't know if you're
I'm
familiar with
not.
her. She's definitely much more like the thriller, twisty, but she's it's kind of funny because she's actually a doctor, like I think a neurologist. And then she started writing and started to self-publish and then got caught in the algorithm and now is, you know, quite famous.
Hold on. When you say caught, this is what's so interesting about, like, today's world. When you say caught in the algorithm, what does that mean?
I think it just means that, like, because of other books, hers were probably suggested because you like this, try
Do you mean,
this.
like, on Amazon? Everything today is an
I
algorithm.
know.
It's absolutely crazy. So you said on the East Coast, you're in Barnes& and Nobles. Are you hoping to kind of expand, like, kinda nationwide? Like, what is that process?
Sure.
Like, and
Yeah.
can you touch on like being, because this is something I'm going through with like Ultra Health products. Obviously, we're starting to grow
Mhm.
in high V's and retail. But honestly, like when I started, I kind of just wanted to be an online brand. So like, do you foresee yourself being more in like actual bookstores
Yeah.
or more online?
I would hope more in bookstores. I mean, I know I definitely agree with the whole I like to hold the book
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that kind of thing. But both, they're also available just to read as like ebooks and Amazon has this program like Kindle Unlimited, basically, so people can sign up and then, books that are included in that they can read for free. And then what's kind of interesting is like the author gets kind of paid per page read, a certain amount.
On the Kindle? That's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, both, but ideally, yes, I'd like to, try to get more out there physically.
Right, right. Yeah, you never know what's possible today, right? And it's like it's so interesting how you said about like diving in the mystery and it kind of goes back to being in flow state. Isn't it amazing? Because that's a common answer. Like when people in really any industry kind of like not veer into a different direction, but they just kind of add to what they're doing and they're like, it just came to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why you have to make sure you're taking time to be in that creative set. And there's different types of creative people. I love conversations like this and being in a creative space with people because and when you're in that zone too, you're like this is great.
Yeah.
I was just talking that way with a buddy of mine. But okay, do you have any questions for me?
Oh my gosh. Ah, I didn't even think about that. I don't know. I mean, I really appreciate you asking me to be on this and
Yeah,
like, yeah,
absolutely.
meeting you. Yeah.
People, the number one question I keep getting about my podcast is like, people assume it's going to be about business. They're like, what,
Uh-huh.
anything else? And I'm like, guys, it's not just going to be about business. Like, I want to have every type of guest on the show. I just want to have good conversations with good people. That's really it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roseanne, I appreciate you being on.
Yeah.
So I know you said you're on Amazon, right? What is the
Mhm.
best way for people either to stay in touch with you or like going forward? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Yes. The best way to, yeah, purchase or read books is on Amazon at this point, but I do have a Facebook page and Instagram. So like Roseanne Burke author. I'm working with the publisher. They're building my website and actually I'm meeting with them, later today for them to show it to me.
Well,
So
that's
we'll see.
exciting.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah,
So I don't have that yet. But yeah, I mean, and hopefully I'll get even more comfortable with the putting myself out there stuff.
yeah.
I'm good at
Yeah.
this part.
Well, you know what?
The other part, I don't know.
Any person feels the same way when they put themselves out there for the first time. I remember like when I first announced that I had launched my own brand, like to kind of to the world on my Facebook
Yeah.
page, but
Yeah.
like it was scary because you're like, what are people going to think? And then you realize like afterwards, you kind of just like laugh because you're like, people are too focused on themselves. They don't care what you're doing, right?
Right.
And like when you finally start to have a little bit of success, the only time people care is when they're, hating. I don't really
Mhm.
like that term,
Mhm.
but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
But just understand that basically anyone feels that insecurity at first, but it's a good feeling when you start to overcome things. So, well, Roseanne, I appreciate you being on the show. So, Roseanne Burke, ladies and gentlemen, Amazon, Graham, anything else?
Facebook. I
Facebook,
don't
new book coming soon. Roseanne, I appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.